Good morning, everybody. Dear Mr. Burda, dear Mrs. Czerny, ladies and gentlemen from all over the world. My name is Peter Altmaier. I'm the German Minister of Economy and Energy. And let me first of all extend to all of you the very warm regards and greetings on behalf of Chancellor Merkel. I also extend to you the greetings and the regards on behalf of the entire government. I must confess I had no time to circulate it across cabinet, but I'm wholeheartedly convinced in this special case, Mr. Burger, even my Bavarian CSU friends would wholeheartedly agree. This conference is a brilliant idea, and I wish you a good debate and lots of positive results. First of all, let me thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and contributing to a debate that is not confined to a single country, that is not confined to a single continent, that is perhaps in the field of technological innovation the first time that we have a global debate and where we have a global reshuffle of the cards that will, within the next couple of years, change a lot to the better, not to the worse. And therefore, let me congratulate with the slogan that you have chosen for this conference, optimism and courage. And this is exactly what we need. I know there are so many startups represented in this room, and I have met with people from Brain Lab and others when I arrived. Germany itself is a kind of a startup. Because when Germany was united in 1990, it was one of the youngest startups in the state world across the globe. There have been a lot of question marks at that time, a lot of unresolved problems and challenges. And Germany was considered 10 years later, at the end of the 1990s, as the sick man of Europe. In the meantime, Germany has achieved quite a lot with regard to the restructuring, the restoring of its traditional economic dynamism. We have overcome the highest unemployment in our history. And instead of 5 million unemployed people today, there are less than 2.5. The youth unemployment is the lowest rate in Europe. And we have a perspective of full employment up to until the year 2025. And this is due to the fact that the German economy has been an innovative economy over 2 decades now, that we have been able to combine our classic strengths with regard to industries, with regard to machines, with regard to chemistry, to combine them with the new technological innovation processes that were going on in so many fields. Today, Germany is a leading nation with regard to so-called resource efficiency when it comes to green technology that will enable us to bring welfare, standard of living, to 7.5 billion people across the globe without destroying the ecological base of the planet. We have a resource efficiency scale of 43%, that's the highest worldwide. We have managed to be a leading country with regard to the new 3D printing technology. When I visited one of the leading companies, I was stunned when I learned that they are already now experiencing technologies to print a permanent base on the moon or on Mars. Instead of transporting all the material, they will just transport the printer. And then under the condition of extraterrestrial, not life, but environment, they will prepare to do it. They are leading the process, and it will allow us taking back industries that Europe has lost over the last decades to other parts of the world where salaries were lower and where production was easier. And now today, we are facing the next challenge, and this is the challenge of digitization, and especially the previous speaker mentioned it, the challenge of artificial intelligence, AI. And that perhaps is the biggest challenge since the invention of the steam machine, because it's a challenge that stretches not just to one sector of industrial production, not just to the sector of transportation, not just to a sector of chemistry or machinery. No, it will cover the entire range of industrial production, of services, of cultural and social life. It starts from linking machines with the internet, where the distinction between the real world of the machines and the virtual world of the web does no longer exist. It covers the entire field of smart home and smart living in your private environment. When machines are voice controlled, when machines will be able to connect with the internet at any moment in order to help you and to provide you with information. It is a new technology that will change the world. And the question is, and this was asked by Elon Musk, it was asked by Stephen Hawking and many other outstanding researchers and intellectuals, the question is whether we will be able to control it, to master it. My answer as a German minister, as a member of the German government is, yes, but in order to master it, you have to understand it. In order to control it, you have to do it. And this is exactly the ambition of the German government and the European Union. We have been leading with regard to research and university research for artificial intelligence 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and still today. Eric Schmidt of Google told me when we had our first meeting 5 years ago, when I was still the minister in charge of the Chancellery and Chief of Staff to Chancellor Merkel, he told me, well, Peter, I have contracted 60% of all AI experts worldwide. German experts, French experts, British experts, people doing research at university level, and many of them have been recruited by Google worldwide. Why? Simply because they are amongst the best researchers you can find. When I went with Chancellor Merkel to Israel, we had a wonderful workshop where startups from Israel were working together with German car manufacturing companies. And we have seen a lot of dynamism going on. And this dynamism is reflected by the number of startups in Germany that have been established last year. We had an increase, the highest increase in years. We have, when it comes to the overall numbers of startups, when you count together everything, a brewery and a flower shop and a digital startup, then we can still do better. But when it comes to the new technologies, people have realized how inspiring it is and how fascinating it is. And therefore, we are convinced that Germany will have a chance to become a leading country, a leading nation, not only when it comes to research, but also when it comes to transfer, to practical implementation and application. Of course, there are some challenges ahead of us. I have discussed with German insurance companies why we have no venture capital fund in Germany that would be able to finance companies which have become a unicorn, companies in need of 200, 300 million euro. Most of these funds are vested in the United States. Many German companies are investing in American funds. But the question is whether the Europeans have the ambition to have such funds in our continent as well. Because today we have lots of successful startups. We have lots of unicorns. One in Munich in this place, Celonis. Another one, number 26, as a fintech startup, now extending to the American market. Another one, DeepL, the world's best startup providing machine translation with AI for the bigger languages. All these fascinating perspectives mean that the government will have to support the activities, not in the way that we would believe we know much better than you in this audience. No, but in a way that we create an environment that makes it attractive for startups coming to Germany, expanding to Germany, investing in Germany, and making Germany one of the fastest growing areas worldwide. Yes, when it comes to autonomous driving, by using artificial intelligence, the question is, who will be first? A company from the US, a company from China, a company from Germany or from Europe. And this is something that depends on our ambition. It depends on our determination to take on that challenge. Germany still has the best, one of the best car manufacturing industries worldwide. We have all the knowledge about how to construct a car, about how to resolve the technical problems. And when we can generate the data, when we will be able to implement good ideas with regard to AI in autonomous driving, because we have the data, we can provide the data, then we can be in the front runners row when it comes to the first practical implementation of autonomous driving, level 5. That's my ambition, that Germany should be first. We have so many classical industries. They all will become married to the world of the Internet. And I believe that leadership in both areas is something very important, and that Europe, with all his ethical, with all his moral, with all his political experience over the last decades and centuries, can play an important part in this. And therefore, we have decided in our cabinet meeting a new strategy on artificial intelligence. We will decide this year, by summer, a new strategy on this new technology that is so important for banks and financial transfers and others. We have decided to establish an agency for disruptive innovation. We have decided to invest several billion euro in order to better finance younger startups. We have the CEO of KfW Capital that was established half a year ago is present this morning, and we will continue to do so. We are ready to consider regulation. Regulation today is one of the biggest obstacles for innovation, because you have on the one hand, as a politician, as a parliament, as a government, you have the duty to protect your people against risks and dangers. But there is no innovation without the preparedness to take sometimes a risk and to try and to allow also errors and mistakes to happen. And this is something that we have to discuss, and perhaps over the last couple of years we have been a little bit too lazy, a little bit too cautious, a little bit too prudent. And sometimes you have to think what you can do to combine both the classical approach that was so successful over the years with the required new approach where you allow people taking risks, making errors, and proving innovation being right or wrong. And therefore, we are now considering so-called real labs. And real labs mean areas, cities, villages, where we can try and implement without extending it in the first step to the entire country. This is something where the United Kingdom has made a good experience when it comes to unmanned civil aviation, when it comes to the new drone technology. I will go, Mr. Broder, after this meeting to Lilium, a wonderful start-up in Munich working with battery-driven airplanes that can have a range of 300 kilometers, that can fly with 300 kilometers per hour, and that can transport up to 5 passengers. Elon Musk, when I had the honor to discuss mobility of the future with him, said, well, everything in the nearby future will fly with batteries, except rockets, but even airplanes cars and others. And this is why the German government is resolved to finance the production of battery cells in Europe as well. Not just in Asia, in China, in South Korea, but in Europe, because we want to defend our position in the value chain. And the decisive question behind all these initiatives that we are prepared to take in cooperation with you, the question behind it is, are we still staying hungry enough? Do we still have the ambition? There are so many young people in Silicon Valley, perhaps many of them amongst this audience, who want to work for a better world. There are so many young people in countries like China, Indonesia and others working for a higher standard of living, for economic success. And we in Germany, are we just working to defend what we have already achieved? Are we still willing, taking the risk that is needed? And my answer is yes. I have met with so many younger people, people who have set up their startups recently, over the last 4 or 5 years, people who have been successful and others who failed. And this is something that we can learn from the US. Failure is nothing to be blamed for. But the fact is that whenever you try, you have the risk of failure as well. But all the people who failed to establish their unicorns and their big businesses worldwide have contributed to the experience that we need in order to know what is working and what is not working. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that beside all the debates, sometimes necessary, sometimes painful, sometimes nasty debates on Brexit, on institutional questions, on party politics. Beside all this, we will in Europe work for a concentration, for a digital agenda that will support all of you. Why is it possible that the bigger data platforms, the bigger platforms in the platform economy are all vested in the US and in China, and none of them so far in Europe? Many of them have been in Europe before, but then when they were in need of money, there was money from the US or money from China, not money from Europe or from Germany. And therefore, we have to understand where the challenge lies. I'm very happy to read this morning that 2 of the bigger car manufacturers today in Germany are starting a cooperation with regard to autonomous driving and AI solutions. Because this is something that cannot be achieved by one company alone. It can only be achieved when you are ready and prepared, working together, working in a teamwork spirit across Europe, across Germany, and even across the world. This is what we are trying to encourage. This is what we would like to happen. And Mr. Burda, you are the proof, the living proof, that entrepreneurial success is possible. When I see the career of your company and what you have achieved over the last 20 years, then I say this is something that must inspire younger people. I have started an initiative in November in order to convince younger people that it is a wonderful challenge to become a self-employed person, to start your own business, to start the idea of conquering Bavaria, Germany, and the world. And therefore, we need role models. And perhaps I'm a role model, Mrs. Czarny, in politics. I'm involved in Angela Merkel's governments for 13 years. Yes, it is true. We have 15 ministers. I have no idea who of them is the most important one. There are many pretending, but this has so far not been decided. But amongst all the 50 ministers, I'm by far the biggest. This cannot be disputed. And what I would like to promise you is that whenever you need some political weight behind your initiatives, and behind the ambition of securing Europe's place in this innovation process, please call me, send me an email. Thank you so much for your attention.